Welcome to episode 88, first one of 2025. So we are excited. First part of this podcast, this episode, we kind of give you a little heads up of what's been going on with the Iowa Eastern Railroad. Then we jump right into talking with Benjamin. He is back giving us an update on his railroad. And then after the episode there, we jump into a little something that we are going to do our best to try and do every episode for, well, at least 400 episodes. So stick around because we're going to get the show on the tracks. Welcome, my friends, episode 88. This is really awesome that we are at this episode number already. And the first of the year, first of 2025. So we are into almost our full second year is complete and almost to our starting our third year, I guess is the best way to put it, third season of this podcast. We have sitting at episode 88. We've got 12. We've got about 14, 16 more episodes, and we'll be starting our our third season and third year we'll be starting. So I want to thank everybody who has listened, who has commented, whether constructive criticism or straight out criticism or positive vibes. I really appreciate that. I appreciate all the listeners and the continued listeners from episode 1 all the way up to now episode 88. I know that, like I've told several people that, well, I'm going to start at episode 1. And I'm like, well, if you do, it's totally different than, the way it sounds and the way it's set up compared to now. And it's an evolving thing. And I want to thank everybody for the past year who have been listening, commenting, all that good stuff. Without you guys, it would not have, I wouldn't have made it this far with this. So thank you. And on to, we're going to do things a little different this episode. It's the first one of 2025 in January, I should say. A little update on the Iowa Eastern Railroad. Now, I haven't really done anything layout wise yet. I have one spot that I have decided to, in a sense, take out the interchange. Even though I'm leaving the track there, I'm going to convert it from an interchange track. And I'm either going to, and it's just outside, just down the track, if you will, a little ways from the Montana yard, the most recent yard I finished up. I haven't decided if I'm going to put another turnout air switch, whatever you want to call it, in on the main line to make it like a passing siding, or if I'm just going to put in a longer spur and put in an industry. But it's definitely going to have a little bit of track work done to it here sometime soon, both when I can find time between the podcast and videos and work and a life outside of model railroading and work. I got to get that figured out. Also, I've added to my fleet. Like we talked about, I am somewhat backdating to where I can run SD40s, SD40-2s, since that's one of my favorite locomotives of all time. My second favorite locomotive of all time it's basically the body style. It started out with the C44-9s, and then it went to the AC4400s, and then the ET4400 Gevos. That body style, I absolutely love. So that's really my second favorite, but the SD40 SD40-2, SD40-2, snoot nose, that kind of thing. That's still ultimately my favorite locomotive. And I recently added actually an Athearn ready to run, sound equipped with Soundtrack's Tsunami 2 decoder. I recently added that to my fleet, and I'm very impressed with it. I've got to do a little more fine detailing on all my locomotive speed matching, but I've got a majority of my locomotives closely speed matched together now, my road ones, and I'm excited about it. But the Athearn, I don't even know how old this one is. Where I purchased it from, they only had one left, and I jumped right on it. And fortunately, I was very pleasantly surprised with it being an Athearn. It wasn't a Genesis; it was just a straight Athearn ready to run, and it's the SD40 White Ghost, but it sounds great. And now I kind of see why everybody, and as far as the programming goes and speed matching and stuff, it to me seems a little easier than the ESU lock sounds or the lock pilots. So I kind of see why in the groups a lot of the people are like ditching in their mind. I'm not saying everybody is. There's people that like the ESU lock sounds, and I can see both sides. I think from this point forward, if the locomotive is equipped with ESU lock sound, I'm not going to touch it. As far as swapping it out for soundtracks, but several of my locomotives now that have just regular decoders in them, I know down the road I would like to add sound to them, and I think I'm going to go soundtracks, Tsunami, probably Tsunami 2. I know they have the Blue Nami, which is Bluetooth and stuff. I have no interest in running my trains off of my phone. With my Digitrack system through JMRI, I'm able to do that with the Wi-Fi throttle or Y throttle, whatever they call it. I do it once in a while just to try it out, and I still like my regular throttles. But and then I finally found and got in the right for my Gray Ghost, that is my SD40-2 snoot that I got quite a while ago, but I finally got the proper, it's not really a snow plow, it's they're pilot steps that are angled for snow removal, I guess, if you will. Finally got some of those in Detail West. It looks amazing. I still have to paint it, but it looks better than putting a traditional snow plow on, because that's not what was on the prototype. I got lift rings on that now. I've got hand bent grab irons. I got the railings on. So now I got rid of the Athearn Blue Box air horns because they were just way oversized. 3D printed some, and they turned out really well. Got that installed. So now it's just a matter of looking at pictures, painting it up that way, how the prototype is. I've also been working on my GP40. I got that. It's an Athearn Blue Box. I got a decoder, and it actually runs exceptionally well. Got grab irons on it, lift rings, and I've got when I purchased it, it was in a little bit of rough shape. So I have to fix them like by the steps. There's some broken pieces. I got to, form out of styrene and get those glued in, and come up with some handrails and stuff like that, or whether I bend them myself or get new ones. So yeah, I've been busy, as I'm sure you can tell. Outside of that, plus I've been 3D printing, and if you didn't enjoy my 3D printing ones, don't worry, I'm not getting into a lot, but I finally have found the time to go back through some of the stuff I've downloaded off free files I've downloaded off the internet for structures and stuff. And basically the main reason I wanted my 3D printers was for doing detail parts. Like I said, air horns. I printed off a whole bunch of Sinclair antennas, and only to find out the KCS never used them. So I've got a whole bunch of them. So if I have friends that need them, I've got those. What else did I print off that turned out really well? I don't even remember. But anyways, I printed off one of the buildings that I got off actually Thingiverse, if you're interested. And it turned out really, really well. The detail is just amazing, and I'm actually excited. Currently, as I'm recording this, I am actually printing. I've already printed the building. I've got the base. I'm printing some of the window inserts. I'm going to get those printed. I'm going to print the roof, and I will actually probably, if I don't do a YouTube video on this, I will put pictures up on our Facebook page, and you can check that out. So, enough with that. Let's get into our guest, Benjamin. It's been a little bit since he's been on, but he's got some, I guess it wasn't that long ago, but anyways, he's got some exciting news. We'll just put it that way, that he wants to share about his layout and the kind of the process he went through to get to where he's at. So let's jump right in with Benjamin. So welcome back, Benjamin. It's great to have you back on here. Hope you've been doing well and your railroad has been doing well, and hope holidays were good to you.
Oh, everything's been good this past holidays. Glad to be back finally. I know our schedule's been trying to line up the past couple weeks, so
Yeah, and around the holidays it's tough, and then with us having the little bit of audio quirk last weekend when we were trying to record didn't help. Um so yeah, what why don't you jump right in, tell us what you've been up to, because actually since our last conversation about a week ago, it's funny that you've been up to a lot since then. So I know, well, I guess let's go back a little bit before that. What you found something out that you were prototypically modeling. It was correct up until a certain point. So you want to kind of
correct.
explain to everybody about that?
Yeah, so the current layout is actually not full out 100% prototypical like I thought it was.
Proto
The
freelancer. I got you.
Yes, I had that coming. The depot is full out prototype
Hmm.
from the actual area, but I found out from about 2 blocks away from where the depot was the actual KCS lines, not the interchange section I thought it was going to be.
Ooh, yep. That that
So
that can be a hard pill to swallow, I guess, to some degree.
it was, but it gave me an opportunity to actually kind of rethink everything back out all over again.
Sure.
And thankfully, I got in contact with the Kansas City Southern Historical Society before Gary could. Um,
Yeah.
the I talked to one of the directors. He gave me a blueprint of Baxter Springs with the KCS's route through the main center part of town, not the outside, the center part.
Sure. Okay. That's
So
cool.
it gave me a better overview of the layout.
Yeah. So what I guess, go into, if you could, a little more detail of, like, you said you're only what you thought you were modeling is in actuality only 2 blocks away. So for those that maybe are looking at doing a prototype, I guess, modeling, and if I guess, what did you find out, and is there any suggestions in that situation that you could potentially give somebody that may be in that situation, like right now, like, oh, I'm doing all this research, but maybe, is there anything that you could suggest?
Yeah, so with me going through research, which was the biggest key factor, is
Hmm.
research. From what got information I could gather at that time, I thought I was going correctly in the direction I thought it was. But by expanding, a going to historical societies is one because they have all sorts of documents that you can look up.
Sure.
Second of all, ask around with different Facebook groups or people that may have known it, which
Hmm.
is what I did too. I had like 3 people that actually gave me feedback already. I'm
Oh,
on my
okay.
third person now, just as of last night,
Really?
that gave me more information. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean that's quite a bit. With actually, if you think about it, within a week's time and a holidays week's time, So I mean, I guess it's great. I'm actually excited for you. The fact that, not that what you thought you were building prototype, which you were. It technically is prototypical, but not KCS. Um,
Correct.
you know, I'm actually I've been excited for you because like we talked last week, you were telling me about the KCS Historical Society, and we've been chatting off and on all week about the information. At least that's what's fun is when you do get that information. Now, to those that are listening thinking, okay, well, maybe, look, it doesn't always fall in your lap like some of this has. I know you've done a lot of legwork up to this point with this railroad, but fortunately, the KCS side, this new information now has kind of, I'm not saying fallen in your lap, but it's come a lot easier, I think, than the Baxter Springs based on us talking before.
Yeah. So after reading some more research and talking with some people that actually knew the branch line before it actually shut down in 1992,
Mhm.
it was formed into abandonment through the KCS paperwork. Line was torn up right prior to that.
Okay.
So talking to a few guys, they have grown up in the 70s and 80s with the branch still barely there.
Mhm.
And talking to a few of them, they said they've sent pictures to me, which I've shown you a couple,
Yeah,
like the bridge, for instance, and stuff like that. But there's not a lot of documentation on that branch, including from what the Historical Society gave me. So it's
sure.
one of those branch lines that's not well documented, but it's interesting because that's why I liked it because it's a unique branch that's not really documented,
Right.
but it's one that's never really talked about either.
Right. Well, and that's so kind of go sidetrack there from that. That's your approach to that is, I think, ultimately what us as model railroaders, not all, but I think at least a third or half model railroaders out there, we want something unique. Well, I mean, all of us want something unique as far as our
Oh
railroad,
yeah,
but you are able to achieve this, thanks to the 2 block distance, that you found, even the Baxter Springs. I know when you were going through the research on the Baxter Springs, there wasn't a lot of research or a lot of information. You had to do a lot of research, and now you're kind of in to some degree in that same boat. Only you've right off the bat, you've had the extra,
yeah. I mean,
photos and
I've gone
stuff.
through about almost 4 months of this trying to look it up and everything else.
Hmm.
And within the past month and a half, I've asked a few people around that actually knew it personally, not personally, but familiar or had some memories of it. And that's kind of what jumped the gun on that.
Sure. Well, I mean, that's awesome. I mean, I know, and we'll get into this a little bit more, but I know you've already started, um, but I mean, so as far as like where you're at, like as of a week ago or so, um, you know, uh, what I guess what are your plans then for those that maybe are in your situation right now? What are your plans for your current layout? Are you planning on taking it down and rebuilding it, or are you gonna hang on to it, or what are your plans for that?
So the plans for the current layout is it's still going to be kept the way it is. I'm not going to dismantle it.
Okay.
I hate to do that. It would all the effort I put into this, I just can't do it.
Right. Oh yeah.
And
I
so it's going to be a more display show layout for promoting the hobby to show people what you can do in small spaces.
oh, okay. Okay. Yeah.
So it's more of like a display, but it also is going to have like some sort of freelance to it as part of the KCS.
Hmm.
Which so I'm kind of on that proto freelance for this one, but the I'm kind of working on a couple modules.
Right.
Hint, hint. Um,
Yeah, yeah. We'll get to that
uh,
after a bit.
yeah, that'll be a little later. But no, with this layout, it's going to stay the way it is. But I'm going to go over to DCC mode. Um,
Oh, I remember when
yes.
we first talked, there's somebody that I talked to that they seemed pretty set on DC because, you wanna
Well,
talk
I
about
was.
that?
I was. But I figure with DCC, you get a little bit more better control
Mhm.
figurations and stuff like that, and talked with you the past couple of days with some questions in regards to DCC. I know I was going for a TCS LT50 system, but
Mhm.
after doing my research and homework, I ended up slamming with the Digitrax system, which is the Zephyr,
Sure. Sure,
which
and
would
it's a
be
good
my next
system.
big thing.
Right. And, with the Digitra or not Digitrax, the DCC systems, it's like we talked about, with, the president of OPSIG, and I know I've said it on here before, Rick Watson had said it as well. You know, all the DCC systems, they've got their positives and they all have their negatives. It's a matter of finding what's going to work for you on your railroad, and like we had talked, you have to think not just of the now, but the future.
And I think
You
that's why I mentioned if the Zephyr expands a little bit or not. And
right.
that's where I could sit. And that's when you told me it can, you have to have this, that, and a few other
Mhm.
items.
Right. And they all have different things, but and that's for me. When I came back, and I've said this before, when I came back into it, I did look at the TC or not TCS, used to
NCE.
be NCE, used to be Wangro, but because I have had experience with well, it was like I said, Wangro, but it's the same thing as NCE. Um, and it operated fine on the club layout years ago. That's no longer there, but I never had any issues with it. But at that time, I liked the features of the Digitrax. Well, coming back in, I kind of looked in some options, and well, I think some of the reason why I went back to Digitrax is because yeah, things have changed a little bit through the years, but it's what I know. And I think you said too, I think you told me that the club that you were in at some point, they ran
Yeah,
Digitrax.
the Arizona Modular Art Society did, and they still do to this day, still have Digitracks on both their N scale and HO scale layouts. So I was
Sure.
more familiarized with that.
And the nice thing about that too is if you're still in contact with any of them, you know, when you have when you do get your system and get it set up or are setting it up, you have somebody relatively close to work with.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So you've decided, let's see here. You've decided to you kind of
There-
threw that out there. You're going to expand a little bit and you decided to go to DCC. What else are you going to spring at us?
um, I don't know. I think that's pretty much sums up what I've actually already started already.
Uh-huh.
The information, like I have a full, I showed you already, but it's a 3 foot long blueprint
Yeah,
of Baxter Springs itself. I have a full out picture of it, so it gives me reference.
sure. And that's really
Um,
cool. I think that's actually something I think you should do a video on your YouTube about that. Kind of like this little experience because I think there's a lot of metal or modelers out there that may be in the situation or maybe getting close to the situation you're in and maybe set up something that shows your research up to this point.
yeah, I mean, with all this, I mean, I've gone through that. I forgot to tell you a couple days ago, the guy from the Historical Society sent me 7 documents already of different areas that I'm looking into.
Wow. Wow. That's
So he gave me all the PDF files for that. So I'm very thankful for the KCS Historical Society for information they can provide.
that's awesome. Yeah. I know, and I'm waiting for them to change up. I know you and I talked if anybody's looking at the joining the Kansas City Southern's Historical Society, if you're not already a member, they are supposed to be, I guess, upgrading or setting up to where you can do your membership online, whether it be through PayPal or whatever they set up. So I know right
Yeah,
now you have to mail in a check, and not cutting them down by any means. And you and I talked about this, but it was kind of one of them things where I just don't like feel comfortable randomly mailing a check somewhere, and kind of thinking, well, Kansas City
And it
Southern
gets
has,
lost in the mail.
yeah. And let's just face it. I mean, the Kansas City Southern just and the CP just what a year ago, not quite a year ago, merged. So is this legit? But they are legit. So
They've got I don't know if you saw on Trains News, but they've got over 100 new locomotive order.
yeah, I read that. I think what I read was CPKC 150. It's like a $600 million order over. I don't want to say they said like several years, something like that, of
Yeah,
new locomotives. And
yeah, it's
between
supposed to
that
be their
and
new
all,
power.
yeah, which I'm, with me backdating, going back to the pre CPKC and back when they were
Whoa, whoa,
still
whoa! I thought
running.
you were going a little further north than going back timing.
What do you mean?
I thought you were gonna start sticking around with the CP and KCS because you have both.
Well, I will, but I'm gonna model where the CP kind of comes in and exits kind of thing. It's gonna be mainly um yeah, it's I don't want to try to keep up with modern time because originally it was modern. I was gonna keep it modernized, but every time they come up with a new paint scheme, you're buying new locomotives or repainting locomotives. So I don't want to do that.
Correct.
So that's where I'm like, well, let's go back to the good old trusty days of the KCS and we'll introduce some of our CP equipment here and there just to mix it up. So,
Yeah.
but, but yeah, it's weird to think hasn't been a year, but yeah, they are. Well, they've also been working on upgrading their main lines and adding. I know the yards down, one of the yards down by where I work, they're working on expanding that down in Muscatine. Plus, uh, Kent, I don't know the real name or the full name, but Kent, they do feeds and stuff like that. They're actually putting in a kitty litter plant down there, which is rail served. So right down the road from work, they literally put in, I want to say it was a 3 or 4 track yard, brand new for, it's a mini yard, but for this plant. So I
I mean,
know,
I know for the merger, I know KCS was looking at probably expanding their intermodal service in the
yep.
Gulf area too, and that was a big project too.
Yeah. I was watching on YouTube. I want to say it was, I think it's LRP, Louisiana Rail Productions or something like that.
Yeah,
And
Louisiana Rail Productions. Yeah,
yeah, and I know he did a final video. It's like for this Kansas City Southern, and a
final days
great.
of the KCS.
You've seen it,
Yeah, I've seen at least almost half of it already, and it's
yeah. I've watched. I've probably watched it half a dozen times already. I mean, it not only is it, I'm looking at it for modeling my like gray ghosts and stuff like that, trying to look for details, um, but yeah, he said in that one that yeah, they tested out, what was it, an intermodal run from, I don't know if, I think was it from Canada all the way down to Mexico, or maybe from like
yeah, they're
Chicago
looking for
down
a
or something.
north-south. Yeah, north-south route is what they're trying to look at doing.
And it was successful. And when they do, they're going to be double tracking, and I bet you triple tracking in some place. They'll have to, because
Oh yeah, I wouldn't doubt it.
yeah, if the freight picks up like they say it's going to be busy.
Yeah, because I know the KCS, the majority of the KCS main line is single track north-south.
Mhm. Yeah. I know the little road I drive to get to work that crosses the CPKC main line. You looking at this, you're like, how are they going to do it? But the railroad's looking at putting in an overpass, because they said the same thing. The freight's supposed to be picking up more higher frequency of trains, and they'll stop traffic for an hour and a half there, crew change or whatever it is they'll do in the mornings. Fortunately, I go into work early enough, I don't have to deal with it.
Yeah,
But um but yeah, they're looking at doing that, and we're all like, how are you going to do that, because it's a very short distance from the stoplight and the highway. But you know what, they have engineers for that. So it's an exciting time. And actually, because of this, I want to say it was a couple 2-3 weeks ago, whenever it was, we were talking, and I kinda decided, okay, I wanna backdate a little bit so I can stay in my SD40s a little, more prominent and stuff
Yeah.
too. Um, I jumped on, and I'm not into the whole buying stocks and stuff like that. I have my 401k. I go in, okay, this one I want to retire. Okay, I'm going to say I'm going to do it sooner just so it's more aggressive, whatever, just I don't want to follow it. But it got me thinking, Robinhood, I'm sure you've heard of it. It's an app or a company app that you can
Yeah, I've
buy
heard of
stock.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I jumped on there, made an account, started looking, and I'm like, all right, well, I am working on my way to owning one share of the CPKC. So
Oh, there you go.
yeah, I'm like, I think I know it sounds real stupid, and I even said to the girlfriend, I'm like, and really the shares aren't that expensive. I think the last time I looked, they were at like $72 or something for a share. But
That's
I can
not bad,
see
really.
no, and they've been in a decline, but I also know once in the next couple years when the rail freight takes off, I'm sure it'll go up. But I'm not
Oh yeah.
necessarily buying it to get rich or anything. I just think it'll be cool to own at least one share of a railroad,
Oh yeah, it would be.
so but on that note, we're going to take a break, and when we get back from break, Benjamin's going to tell us what he's been up to even in the last week. So stick around because we'll be back shortly. If you are enjoying our podcast, we'd like to invite you to go over to patreon.com/model railroad talk and become a premium supporter over there. All sorts of details over on the Patreon page of ours. Also, if you don't want to get into something that's a monthly thing, but you would like to, hey, I'd like to throw a little support your way, you can always head over to buymeacoffee.com/MODRAILTLK, short for Model Railroad Talk. And you can donate as much or as little as you would like without any monthly reoccurring or anything like that. So if you would like to support us, head on over to patreon.com/model railroad talk, or you can head on over to buymeacoffee.com/MODRAILTLK. And to those that have supported this podcast, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. Are you interested in operations? Are you new to operations? Are you a seasoned operator? Consider joining the Operations Special Interest Group, or OPSIG. The OPSIG is an organization dedicated to operations from the experienced operator to the novice. Their principal purpose is to discuss, develop, and disseminate ways of operating model railroads to realistically emulate practices of the prototype. This includes sharing information on various methods of generating, moving, and controlling traffic to heighten the feeling that our models are an active and integral part of the national rail transportation network, serving shippers and consignees throughout the nation. Their membership is a tremendous resource to exchange information and ideas and to develop improved ways for hobbyists to learn the art and science of operating a railroad in a particular model railroad. Their quarterly publication, The Dispatcher's Office, is another great resource. It's loaded with articles about operations, including paperwork, planning, execution, and hosting of sessions. Annual membership is only $10 per year. Membership includes 4 issues of the Dispatcher's Office e-version, access to their Dispatcher's Office archives, an industry database to help add realism to your operations, and a directory of operating layouts across the country. If you like to operate or are just becoming aware of this exciting and growing part of the hobby, this is the place. All are welcome. You can find them at www.opsig.org. That's www.opsig. Guess what? Guess what? You know what I'm going to say. Yes, we are back from break, and we still have Benjamin with us. And Benjamin leaked out a little bit of information in the first part here, the first half, about what's going on. So the first half, we went over, if you're coming back, maybe you paused it and you're coming back a few days later and finishing it up, talking about how Benjamin had his Baxter Springs Division, only to find out it really wasn't the Baxter. Well, it was Baxter Springs Division, but it wasn't KCS. He found through research in the Kansas City Historical Society and help of others that actually what he thought he was modeling was 2 blocks over. So I know in the last week, him and I have been in a lot of contact, and he's gotten some ideas, which we had talked about a few episodes ago, talking about modules, building your railroad, whether it be bench work up or maybe just the scene separately, and then adding it in or adding to. So, Benjamin, do you want how do you want to start that? What do you want to let everybody know what's going on? I'll let
Oh,
you do that.
okay. So after listening to your episode 86 about the modulars, um, I will throw a side note for you though. Just FYI, the
Mhm.
Baxter Springs branch is actually the Lawton branch, Lawton branch.
Oh, okay.
It was, according to the KCS's rule books, it was actually known as the Lawton branch, not the Baxter Springs branch.
Oh, and it was actually KCS,
hmm
or
Full
was
out
it
KCS
Sioux?
branch.
Or I'm
No, it
sorry,
was a
not
full out
Sioux.
KCS branch from Baxter Springs to Osbury, but in
Oh,
their books they had known it as the Lawton branch, not the Baxter Springs branch.
gotcha. Good piece of
So
information.
with that being said, though, looking up key locations on aerialviews.com, I think it was,
Mm-hmm.
I was able to pinpoint a few locations on the map, and one of them is the interesting KCS junction with the Frisco at Crestline.
Mm-hmm.
And I've sent Gary a few pictures of these um, aerial views, and it's an interesting intersection,
It
if I
really
may say.
is.
So actually, I did find another information on one of those PDF files about that intersection.
Oh, yeah.
So imagine a 90-degree crossover for people that are listening. I'll post pictures on my Facebook group as well as on the website for the Model Railroad Talk people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but the imagine a 90-degree crossover going a northwest to southwest direction,
Mm-hmm.
and right off of the 90, you got a left hand, left hand switch
Mm-hmm.
that goes even more south. But then
Mm-hmm.
you hit automatically into a right hand turnout that takes you back going the southward direction on the 90. And that south part that comes off that intersection actually is part of another gravel facility that was actually further south.
Oh, okay.
So both KCS and Frisco served that industry,
Okay.
but KCS also had interchange traffic with Frisco there as well too.
Okay.
So
So,
finding that out puts a whole different interesting ball game on that intersection,
right.
which was a
Yeah,
it's a full out interchange, but it was also industry served at the top of that too.
sure. Yeah, that's actually, now that you say that, that really does, and seeing the aerial view of it, it really, if you're a person that's into interchange, whether just on your own railroad or you do interchange beyond the basement or whatever, in whatever form, that is definitely, if you're those listening, if you're looking at building something, look at that, what he's talking about down there, because that would be a very good example for that kind of layout.
Yeah, and like I said, I'll post it on the Facebook groups,
Mm-hmm.
mine and the Malware Talk plus the Malware Talk website if anybody goes to that.
Sure, sure. That's awesome. So what have we started to do this week?
So this whole entire week, apart from the planning stage and everything else, I've been doing a lot of freehand drawing of planning everything out on 1 foot by 4 foot modules. I got two. Well, I got one right behind me that is got cork row bed down, foam, and the framework started. The other one that's in the other room has got just the bench work ready to go. Yeah, so I have the other module in the other room that's just got the framework. No foam on it or scenery. That's actually the second
Why
part.
why no foam or scenery? Why it's been only a week. Why isn't it fully scenic? I'm just kidding.
So, so actually, believe it or not, this one's actually a trickier modular piece, as I was talking with Gary last night about
Yep.
it. This is actually called the Cow Creek Bridge. It is one of the most
Mm.
unique bridges on this whole entire line that they've said, from what information I've gathered from others.
It
Um,
definitely is interesting.
it is, and from what I've shown Gary with pictures, and I want to thank Mike from the KCS Railway History Group.
Mhm.
He's the one that had
Thank
these
you, Mike.
photos. Yep.
Mhm.
he he was put in a post, and I saw it. It's got imagine a truss bridge merged with a
Mhm.
deck girder bridge, and it looks like on the right side is a embankment, I want to say, which is
Yeah,
where the
it's
line draws the line.
yeah, and looking at and I looked at those pictures, I think was it yeah, it was last night we were messaging about that and talking about it,
Yeah,
and I know this morning because I was up early for some reason, on my days off, I wake up early and I can't go back to sleep, but when I have to go to work and get up early, I can easily go back to sleep, but anyways, I was looking back at the pictures and yeah, it you almost need a even if you can't get a perfect side picture of that area, if you could just get find a picture that's just another 15 degrees out, you know what I mean, to the side,
well, that's what
I
I was
think would
thinking
help.
too. If it just a little bit to the right side, it would have shown.
Yeah. Sorry, I
But
didn't
the
mean to interrupt
second
you.
picture I sent you, though, showed the track view looking at it going south,
Mhm.
and that's looking at the speeder that was on the rails.
Right.
Um, but you could see it looks like an embankment, but it's hard to pinpoint exactly what it is.
It really is. Because I've zoomed in and out on these pictures and over and over and over, and I just it's I think part of it what makes it hard is the pictures are actually darker pictures,
Yeah, so
and
these pictures were taken in the mid to late 80s.
yeah, so they're basically film or slide converted to digital. Not cutting it down. I mean, it is what it is, but
Correct.
yeah, and not to mention it looks like though there's a lot of shadows in that area too. So that also helps make it a little tougher, but
Correct.
um
Yeah, because it's hard to say really what it is.
right. But go ahead. Sorry about that.
No, no, you're fine. No, but the other module I've already kind of got the foam down, the cork, and framework, like
Mhm.
I had mentioned, and that's the whole interchange section, which is the easier model.
Sure. Now,
So
the one you showed me, I know you just showed me, but I've been trying to work on uh, getting this program working and not messing up like it did on us last week.
yeah,
The one you have the module that's not the bridge one that you started already. Is that the crossing?
this one.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, this one is the crossing, which I've already started and everything else.
And that's the one you were talking about the where it's not really perfectly north, south, east, west. It's like an X, and then you've got the yeah.
Yeah, correct. And that's the one I showed you the aerial view of
Mm-hmm.
so that aerial view is from 1981.
Okay,
So that's prior to 10 years before abandonment.
sure. You would think that's still in the I guess yeah, it's early stages of photography, but they've been doing photography for a long time. You would think there's people out there that have more pictures. They just either haven't switched them over to digital or they're not sharing them
Correct.
yet.
Correct. And that's why I was talking to you about the other guy, Dusty McCoy.
Mhm.
He's the one that he says he's got actually a few more pictures of it, but he's got an older, it's like a computer. What is it? It can print out those older photos on like a computer. It's like a
Oh,
brown
okay.
box.
Sure.
and he says he's got a few more pictures for me that once he gets it out, he'll have them sent over to me, which I'll show you what those will be like too.
That'll be cool. Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, let's face it, when you're doing prototype modeling, all the information in the world helps, um, and accurate information, and I know this is sidetracked and it's not as big of a deal as, like, what you're doing, but prime example, and I lost my notes, but, like, my KCS snoot nose I got, it's
yeah,
number 681. I looked it up, and I wanna say, from what I gathered off of the Historical Society site, I wanna say, like, the last few years of its existence, because it's no longer it's been retired, that particular locomotive, but it was like it had been went from 681, well, it went from being a white ghost to a gray ghost to, and it ended up getting a different number of 681. While it was a white ghost and gray ghost, it was 681, but then before it went to the graveyard, I guess you could say, it had a weird it was a four-digit number, like 3247 or something like that, and
yeah,
I've tried looking that number up, and I cannot find any information on that, basically its final number or any pictures, and just, when you're looking for something and you're not able to find it, especially when you're trying to prototype model, it gets frustrating, but that's where I'm glad. It seems like you're getting more you're getting information easier now than when you were doing the Baxter Springs, because I remember the Baxter Springs, it was like you're telling me you're looking for this, and then I don't know, it'd be a few weeks later, oh, I found it finally, or somebody had it, kind of thing.
yeah. So I'd just ask around, or I'd go through Google and do my own research that way. And boy, I tell you, trying to get through all that stuff just to find something is usually like a needle in a haystack.
Yeah, yeah, it is, and I mean, it's weird because even though KCS was, and well, I mean, technically still is with the CP, um, a class one railroad,
Yeah.
they still KCS always it's like they weren't in the limelight as much as the UP, now BNSF, but before Burlington Northern, the Santa Fe, you always heard the I don't wanna say bigger names, but you always heard of those names more than you
Hmm.
really did Kansas City Southern, unless you were in that area for the Kansas City Southern.
Correct.
So yeah, I mean, prototype is and doing the research, I never I because of you, well, I should say, not necessarily because of you, but because of you and Eric, you guys have really pushed me as far as modeling. No, I'm not gonna go prototype because I mean, my layout's already built. The best I can do is try to prototype my models, the locomotives, cars, stuff like that. Um, but you guys have really, between you with the KCS and your research, and working with Eric on his 1-inch scale GP60M and helping him uh, do the research and get parts and stuff like that. It's helping me model better. So I got to say thank you to you and Eric. If Eric, thank you if you ever listen to this episode. So I know from me, thank you for, I guess, pushing me without knowing you were pushing me and me knowing you were pushing me, kind of thing. So, but
Yeah,
that's what's
no, I
great
mean,
about the
that's not a
hobby.
problem. I mean, I know I was feeling feed to your fire a little bit there.
No,
That's-
never. No. So it is your fault. I found another, it was actually a good deal, but I found another, KCS snoot nose, gray
Well, I
ghost. So,
think what was it last week? Last week or 2 weeks ago, I sent you like 3 or 4 different eBay items
uh-huh.
that were HO KCS.
Yeah. 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 And yeah. So, and then, but remember, I sent you, uh, I got you connected with Scott from Scott's Trains, because he has stuff
Yeah,
too. So, and I know Scott, if I know Scott just started here recently listening to the episode, um, but Scott, anytime, anything, pound him, pound, Benjamin here with KCS stuff when you get it, because make sure he gets it all. He deserves it. But no, I mean, it's nice having somebody like Scott. He works with me, and anytime he gets the KCS stuff, and I know he'll do the same for you. Um,
Oh yeah.
let so, and that actually helps take some of the stress down rather than always searching for equipment. Like, okay, I need to add more of this. If you have another set of eyes looking for stuff, it helps. So,
Oh yeah. It,
so, all right. So, um, up to this point, your module that you have built, um, you said it's basically just wood and cork road bed. That's it.
I got the foam on there.
Well, I thought you said you didn't have the foam yet. Or no,
That's
you
the
said,
other module that doesn't have anything on there.
oh, you have
I
two
got
of them almost done
I got two
or
modules started.
started. Oh, you only showed me the one. Okay.
Yeah, this one here is the one that's getting full swing into it. The other one will be a little bit more time before that one gets fully started.
Oh, okay. All right. That makes sense. That makes sense. So, um,
Yeah.
any tips for the listeners as far as this module? Because your Baxter Springs layout is a 2 foot by 4 foot standard. And I don't mean, I'm not saying there's anything standard about it, but standard size oval layout.
Hmm.
And now you're going more module, whether you add your new sections or in a sense are able to tie them into this, or you choose not to. Is there any tips you can give anybody as far as, um, or that you want people to know as, okay, you're going from your traditional, what people think of as a train layout, 2 foot
Yeah.
by 4 foot or whatever, and now you're kind of going module. Is there anything you would like to let people know?
Yeah. So with the modular, I mean, granted, you don't always have to start with a 2 foot by 4 foot round around
Mhm.
or anything like that. Just by doing a module just gives you the opportunity to learn your hands by learning the scenery tips, your ballasting, your track work, your it
Mhm.
gives you those basic steps by not having an actual layout, but just doing a like a diorama, for instance,
Right.
or something like that. Just kind of get your feet wet so you know what you're getting into.
Right. And I remember when we first started talking, or you reached out through the podcast. Your first layout was, what was it, like a 1 foot by what, 3 foot or 4 foot, like corner?
Yeah,
It
it
was,
was an
and
L shape, 1 foot by 4 foot L shape. So it was a 4 by 4 L shape.
so I mean, it wasn't necessarily module per se, but it was a shelf layout. Yeah. But
Yeah,
it's still kind of, well, size wise, kind of the same concept is what you're doing
correct.
now. Yeah.
Yeah,
And then I remember you were redoing that and then didn't hear anything from you on a while. And next thing I know, I see pictures of, oh, well, he's going, way bigger than what he was talking about before. And then now we're adding on, or, or working towards making it bigger. So I think that's great.
yeah, and it's easier to just do it step by step versus just jumping all into one.
Right. And so, like, I wish I would have taken that kind of step with my railroad that I'm building now. I mine was built framework and stuff, piece section by section, but they were all connected together. Unfortunately, in my mind, I have one of those minds of, okay, I've got to get all my bench work done. Well, I did, with the exception of my last yard, and that was because I messed up my back. But and then I for the longest time, you have to finish a step before you do the next one. You have to finish your bench work before you lay track. You have to, so on and so forth.
Yeah,
And that's not true. A lot of people think, or they get into that rut of thinking, okay, I got to get all my bench work done. If you're doing a layout like mine, or even like what you're doing with the module pieces, okay, well, I got to get all the bench works, or the wood
yeah,
parts done before I can. No, if you get one section done and you feel like you want to add, you've got the track down and it's wired or whatever, and you want to add scenery, go ahead.
yeah.
There's nothing wrong with it.
No, and it just gets your feet into the base of your hands is wet. A little bit is what it does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's whether you're new or maybe you've been away from it for a long time and you're coming back into it, that's start small. Um, Even coming back into it, well, I didn't really start small, but coming back into it, but it's smaller than my old railroad, but
Well, no, you
I
just want to
know.
go, but
Huh?
I said no, you just want to go big or go home.
Right, right. Well, I was allotted the space by the boss girlfriend upstairs, and I took advantage of it. Okay, I'm gonna use as much almost every inch of it as I can. So why not? But um any final thoughts for us on this
No,
episode?
I mean the only thing I could think of would be if you're a beginner or anything, start small. Maybe go to a module, learn your
Mhm,
first hands on it, and then work your way to like what I have, which is the 2 foot by 4 foot. Or if you're HO scale, same thing, same concept, but just to a 4 by 8 sheet instead.
mhm. And I'm not getting this the podcast isn't getting paid for this, but if you don't know where to start, look actually at Woodland Scenics, go to a hobby shop, look online. Woodland Scenics actually has those, little modular kits that you can buy that it's foam for the base and everything, but it gives you all the scenery material and everything. The only thing it doesn't give you is roadbed and track in your cars, but it's a
Correct.
nice little starter. I don't remember how big they are, like a foot, maybe foot and a half deep by 2 foot or foot and a half long, something like that. But that's a good way just to start, even if you don't you build a nice diorama, you know. I
Yeah.
I I had one years ago to where I could take pictures if I super detailed a locomotive or repainted a locomotive or car just to change it up to where I could take it outside and get natural light and stuff on it. So, um, look into that if you're looking at getting into it and you just want to do the scenery and building, and that's another good way to start. So, all right, we will definitely have to have you back because you have to keep us updated on this because this is very interesting. See how far if you've gone this far in 1 week and on a holiday week, just think what you could do. I see a lot of empty wall space in your room there that could I can see a big layout coming.
Oh yeah, I mean you could definitely tell if it does or not.
Yeah, right, right. All right, Benjamin. We will talk to you next time around. Thanks for coming on.
All right, thanks for having me, Gary.
Well, there you have it. Another episode with a continued guest, Benjamin. And we always appreciate when he comes on to the episode. Um, so, as we promised at the beginning of this episode, being the first one of 2025, um, we are going to be doing something. Well, let me rephrase that. I'm going to try to remember to do this every episode. Um, so a little detail behind it. My girlfriend, her daughter, who is awesome, and got me for Christmas, and I wanted to wait until to start it, first one of the year kind of thing. But she got me this book that is 400 plus thrilling and unbelievable train facts. And flipping through it, I'm like, there is a lot of cool stuff in here. So I figured every episode I'm going to try to do at the end of the episode for you guys. Read at least one of these, and there's different sections in this. There are different, I guess, chapters or whatever you want. Anywhere from early history to railway terminology and jargon, which we were kind of doing that some thanks to Linda E from California, her suggestion. We were trying to do it. I just unfortunately trying to scramble at times to come up with content for an episode, which I'm sure you could tell. I know I could tell. It got difficult, and that list that I had before was some of it was just jargon. really. I mean, just gibberish almost. So, and it would have been boring. But this has several, well, I'll tell you right now, it's basically got 20 different chapters that have anywhere from 20 or roughly 20 different um, facts, basically. So this one is from basically the chapter High Speed Rail and Advanced Systems. So we're just starting with the first one in this one, and that is World's Fastest Train. The world's fastest train is the Shanghai Maglev, which can reach speeds of up to 267 miles per hour or 430 kilometers per hour. The magnetic levitation maglev train operates in Shanghai, China, offering passengers a thrilling experience of ultra high speed travel. Can you imagine going 267 miles an hour? The stuff going by you would be, I don't even think it'd be a blur. Would you even really see it unless it's like a mountain, something? I think that would definitely be really, really cool. So, thank you to The Girlfriend's Daughter for this awesome book. And I'm marking them in the book so I do not repeat myself on those. But they are, I'm going to try to do that every episode if I can. So, thank you for listening in to this episode. As always, you can reach out to us, modelrailroadtalk@gmail.com. You can go to our website, www.modelrailroadtalk.com. Always go to our Facebook page under, you guessed it, Model Railroad Talk. Obviously, go to our YouTube page. Thank you for all the likes and subscribes on our YouTube page. It just continues to grow. I need to, by the time this comes out, I'm hoping to have another new video up. I've got a few ideas. I'm planning them out. But I want to thank everybody that has gone on there, subscribed, and whether they've liked or commented or whatever, I really, really appreciate it. But yeah, our YouTube channel, guess what? Model Railroad Talk. Yep, you guessed it. And also, this episode, I will let you know. I told you, I told our Patreon members, but we tried recording last weekend with Benjamin and we ran into issues. And so this episode was actually recorded on a different mic, a little bit of different setup. So if you notice, sounds a little different, whether voice or like Benjamin did, whatever, or volume, that's because I'm on a different mic and partially getting used to it. I don't know if I'm going to continue with this mic just because the setup, I got to get used to it. I've been used to my old setup. I got to make sure that that's fine. I don't know. Reach out to us. Like I said, email us, modelrailroadtalk@gmail.com if you prefer the old setup or this new one. If the old setup will continue to work, great. If not, we'll stick with this new mic. So, um, always reach out to us. Comment on. You can always leave comments on the episode below. And like always, I want to thank you for listening. And remember, keep your train on the tracks.